the catalyst, the breaking point of me changing my life was me sitting on the side of a road one day and telling God that I accept this is going to be my life because you won't answer my prayer.
You're listening to A Shot of Hope, a Recovery Stories podcast from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm Chaplain Vic King. I serve at Helping Out Mission in downtown Baltimore. And today, Demetrie's story. Demetrie and I both grew up on the eastern shore of Maryland. You'll hear how his prayers started to change from telling God what to do to asking for God's will to be done, and how he's found the transformation he was always looking for.
My name is Demetrie Garner. I'm 40 years old. Identifying details as something that I think is ever-changing with me personally. Some people talk about the wearing of the hats. Some people talk about stripping off masks to get to who you really are. That's something that I'm working on. It's a process. My nephew, who is 9 years younger than me, when he was 2, started calling me Uncle Meaty. So it was cool when it was just in the house, right? Until my best friend heard him say this. Now, him being my best friend, I never thought he would do this. So take it back to middle school. Middle school kids at the age of like 12, and we're mean. And so he decided, my best friend, to call me Uncle Meaty in front of the whole cafeteria. So now my name is Uncle Meaty. And because I had such a negative response to it, so having a negative response, I should have been smart enough, but I wasn't, to like laugh myself. And then they were probably stopped. So I was Uncle Meaty till I graduated. So to go back to like first memories of being like 5, my mother had this boyfriend and he was so nice to me, right? I know he wasn't my dad, but he treated me real nice, right? And one day I come home and my mother says that they had broken up and we had to move. We moved to this small part of an apartment that was the attic of a house that was converted to an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, kitchen, family living room. And so it wasn't what I was used to. My mother worked, she was single, and I didn't feel like I had to protect her or anything like that. We were surrounded by the crack epidemic in the 80s, but it didn't affect my house. I lived on the Eastern Shore, this small town called Federalsburg. I lived on a street called Smith Street. You had the dope boys out there, or the crack boys out there. People would come in. You knew who was buying crack and you knew who was selling crack. But the funny thing about that was that the guys that used to sell crack, they respected the kids. Kids did not sell crack where I was from. You seen that on TV up here in the city, you know. It was grown, older black men that actually, if you asked them for $1, they would give you a 20. So we didn't see any kind of negative effects in our community because nobody was robbing the older ladies or robbing the parents and stuff like that in our neighborhood. Even though it was a place where people came and bought crack, not a lot of people smoked crack there. Kind of weird. And so you have this kind of weird relationship with the drug dealers. We don't see anything wrong with them being drug dealers. We don't. We see something wrong with the cops stopping them from making money. So that whole time for 10 years, I had a weird view of the impact of drugs in the community because I didn't see a negative impact. I really didn't. I started using drugs. So I think 12 years old, I was tasting my sister's boyfriend's liquor. He would let me take a shot, and I liked it. And I used to watch grown men like fall out drunk and act a fool, and I didn't. So this one particular day, it was summertime, and I helped drink a 5th of Seagram's gin. And I helped drink a 5th. I went home, passed out. My mother wasn't home. I woke up a couple hours later and I was sober. Right. And so I was telling my friends about it and they were like, that's strange. They thought I was lying. I wasn't lying. I was sober. And I wanted more. I didn't know at the time that's what I wanted was more. I just know that I wanted that kind of feeling again, but not be drunk this time. So through trial and error, I learned how to drink from the age of 12 all my life without being drunk. And that started a process of trying weed, not really being my friend. I didn't like the feeling too much. But then I found cocaine at 14. At 14, finding cocaine, right? I had a friend that was older than me, and he was telling me his experiences of sniffing coke, right? And I didn't want to do it. And I had this guy that lived downstairs from us that was a drug dealer. So they were sniffing coke in my apartment while my mother was at work, right? And they asked me to try it. And I was like, no, because I remember like Len Bias died, right? I remember Len Bias dying, and he died years before this, right? But I remember watching some kind of documentary about his life and how like cocaine just stopped his heart. So I told him, I'll never forget this. I said, no, man. I said, I don't want nothing to mess my heart up. And they said this to me. You see us, ain't nothing wrong with us. You be all right. And so I'm not going to say I was peer pressured, because at no particular time that anybody forced me, like, if you don't do this, I willingly chose to do this to see if anything would happen. You see how insane that is? And so I remember when I sniffed the first time, I ended up cleaning my mother's house. Just cleaned her house. And I was still up when she came home. 7 o'clock in the morning. This happened somewhere like at 6. And I've been up all day from school. That progressed very quickly to smoking crack, because this sounds crazy, but I decided to smoke crack to stop sniffing coke. I thought that was going to be, if I smoke crack for a little while, my nose will heal up and I'll stop sniffing coke, and then I'll be good. I don't know where this logic came from, where this made any kind of sense, but it made sense at the time. And the first time I smoked crack, I said I would never smoke it again. I actually wrote this letter to myself. And I took this letter and I burned it, right? And I said, here, God, this is what I mean. I burned it and I flushed it down the toilet, right? Maybe a week later, I was still smoking crack. Yeah, so that didn't help. Looking back and talking about it now, looking at the failed attempts to stop behaviors.
How do you understand that now?
There was no surrender. To me, I wasn't honest about it. Nothing changed. Nothing changed. I know, Vic, you want a timeline to get to here, but if I would fast forward, right, the catalyst, the breaking point of me changing my life was me sitting on the side of a road one day and telling God that I accept this is going to be my life because you won't answer my prayer, right? I didn't feel like it was his duty to stop all of this, but I felt like since I believed in him, that he should step in now because I'm going to die. And it never happened that way. To be honest with you, Vic, it is a blessing and a curse because you know, but you continually do something that's against this conflict theory within yourself. All right. So I remember at a young age, right, being called a lot of things like, hey, preacher man, and all these kind of things. And like some kids wouldn't play with me because they thought that the things that they did, I wouldn't do. Right. And so I didn't like that. I didn't like that feeling. I don't know where it came from because I definitely didn't talk about church to my friends. They just knew that it was something that I went to. And I voluntarily went there. My grandmother, who lived in another town, went to a church that was on my street where I lived at in a certain town. And so I wanted to spend time with her. So I would go there and sit with my grandmother at church. I didn't have to go to church. It wasn't forced on me. And somehow that just came something that, you know how kids, they color and draw in church, but somehow I wouldn't do that. I would listen to what they had to say. For some reason, I would listen. I would not go home and read my Bible and like that and become a scholar in the word, but I would just listen. And I found it so interesting to see the charismatic worship because I found it to be entertainment. The entertainment value kept me going, even though I wanted to be with my grandmother. But the things, the core values of what was being said is the things that stuck. Somehow I look past people falling out just because the drums start beating faster or starting to move faster and to shout and praise. But when I listened to what the preacher had to say about a lifestyle live, right, and the examples of Christ, I found it appealing. Even as a child before drugs, I found it appealing. I didn't understand the whole concept of God in three person. That's one. I didn't understand the Holy Spirit. I don't even to this day understand the passion of the Christ, but I accept it. But as a child, I felt the same way. I felt as though that, like, I wanted to know more about why we're here, why every Sunday all these people come to this church, why do they pay all this money to our tithes, why do they praise God and they're going to hell. I never understood it as a kid, so it was fascinating for me to understand. And to this day, that's still in the process. So I would talk to him, and Vic, I know this is a short time, but like a condensed version of this, right? Of all the 26 years of getting high, I never once said that he didn't exist or anything like that. If anything, I would have these conversations with him at the end of the years at the end, just to try to make sense of, is there a way out? So I would always talk to him. I would talk to him while I'm smoking crack or doing dope, which the people around me hated that. So I ended up getting high by myself because I was the only one that could enjoy what I had to go on, right, going on with me. And so nobody wanted to get high with me unless I had something and they wanted to share it, and they could just tolerate me going off after. My mother told me this. She said, I wish you would get away from here. And I was like, why? Why? It's a small town. I lived in a house that my grandmother gave me. She had this house built. She died and left me the house. A house that's paid for. Okay. And I lost it. I stopped crying about that. One day after I lost my job as a plant manager for a company called B&G Foods, and I ran a plant for them. So, never been to college, nothing like that. I just started driving a forklift, and somehow I ended up running a plant. I worked there for 10 years, and I lost that job because of cocaine. It's bad. They tried to hide that for a long time, but then they couldn't hide it anymore because I was stopped trying to play the game. I got tired. Right. So I lose the job, and that's not my bottom point. My bottom point is I started working this job selling meat door to door because it paid money. It paid cash money, and any given week, I know I can make $1,000, but I would spend money every day. And so all of this was going on, the memory of where I was and where I'm at now, selling meat door to door with all rejections. So that wasn't the bottom point. It was one particular day that I was riding, and I went to the liquor store. I was off work, and all the memories of who I was and where I'm at now, and every penny that I had in my pocket right in that particular day is owed to a drug dealer. And I'm sleeping on somebody's couch that has mice that run underneath them at night with a kid that's 4 years old that was born drug addicted. So he's kind of has some mental issues, and the fighting that goes on because whoever smoked the last crack in the house, all that stuff that I had to go home to in the memories of who I was sitting at this liquor store, and I made this phone call to a ex-friend, girlfriend. I don't know where she was, to me, whatever she was. And I told her, I said that God doesn't talk to me anymore. She didn't understand what I was saying. And I didn't know the words to convey how I felt. And everything just came to that point. What? I never felt that before. I felt like there was a disconnect inside. No matter if I got high, I still felt it. No matter if I went to a rehab, I still felt it, or a psych ward. I've been through all of them. And I never could get this. I know I was missing something here. It wasn't a love from somebody else's touch. It wasn't a encouragement word. If you gave me a house and a home to stay in for free, I still was missing something inside. It was something, and I knew it. And I knew it. And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't read anything to replace what was in here. And so every time I would call God, I would not get a response, but only do the same behaviors that I was doing. Getting high and finding means to get high again. Nothing changed. And so that went on. The reason why I talk about that conversation is because it was like a realization. Finally realizing something is amiss. Even though I have lost homes, girlfriends, jobs, still didn't click. Sitting at this liquor store, knowing that this is my life, something clicked. So all the same time I was asking God to change me, help me change. He was. This is just my process. Sometimes I feel like that I should be riding the small bus with the helmet on my head because this is how he has to treat me. That's how I look at it sometimes. Like, I can't grasp you, God, telling me, hey, Demetrie, this is your next step. No, because I'm going to ask 15 questions and then have sub questions in every question. So he has to bring people my way. He has to have me sit here and talk to you seriously about a past in order for me to remember it, to be reflective of it, what he's done. This is the only reason why I'm sitting here, because I know if I had to talk to you, Vic, sometimes I need to hear this myself because I forget. That's the only thing about being clean. You forget the pain. That's why I think people relapse so much. So by talking about this, I don't even remember these things until I'm talking about them. Every time I'm talking to you about sitting on the side of a road, I feel the pain, even though I'm telling you words. You can't experience that pain because you wasn't there, but I can, which helps me remember why I'm on this path. Because people say it's not easy, but I'm going to say it's not difficult either. If I continue just to be honest with myself, when I feel like that I want to walk by a liquor store and still look at the billboards and see how much a 30-pack of beer costs, I have to be honest and tell somebody. And then I have to know why I feel that way. Why do I need to know how much a 30-pack costs? The only thing that made that realization made for me was that something needs to be done. So I ran into this guy who time to time I used to sell drugs for. And for whatever reason, he was on house arrest. And he told me one day, he was like, hey, you still do dope? And I was like, yeah. So he was like, try this out. And he just gave me this big chunk. Right. And I'm like, he didn't ask for no money. Right. And so I started doing favors for him because he couldn't leave the house. And he started giving me brown heroin. And I will never forget one day I left his house and I was walking back to this apartment that I stayed with this girl with. Because this time I didn't own nothing. My own idea of owning something was to rent a couch from anybody that would have me. I didn't want an apartment. I didn't even try to strive for an apartment. I just wanted to rent a couch. But anyway, so I was walking back one day and a voice said in my head, one day you're going to have to stop this. Because I had a habit. And I knew that I couldn't go to work or do anything without doing dope first. But I always would buy some pills every now and then, maybe somebody get a strip, right, for the first of the month or whenever they get a strip of 30s, right? And I would do some pills. And then when they sold all of them, I didn't have no problem with them. I would just stop, right? Maybe go through some back pain or something like that withdrawal, but nothing major, right? And so the heroin came through when the pills stopped coming through. And I didn't see the big deal with it until I had it on a regular and I became addicted. And I knew I was addicted one day. I was laying in bed and thought it was a fart. No, it was loose and water and it was bad. It was bad. And I started throwing up and I was like, what is wrong with me? Because it's a difference when you know you're sick, but you're not sick. It's just your stomach and your butt, and I'm cold and sweating at the same time. So I had to be told I was going to do withdrawal. So anyway, I was walking that day, and something was like, hey, we can't keep on doing this. I knew right then that it was going to be a change. I just didn't know when, didn't know how, because at this time, it wasn't my voice that told me this. ODs happened after that. So within that, and 6 months later, I went back to this particular rehab in Chestertown, Maryland, called the Whitsitt Center. And I heard this one guy passing by talking to the Kent County Health Department administrator about helping out mission. The rumors were they'll get you somewhere to live, right? They'll send you to school, and all you got to do is do a 6-month program, but you can stay for a year. And I asked him, I said, can I do a phone assessment too? So I gets on there, and I get in the car, and I come up here to Helping Up Mission. I was going to make a change, and I didn't know anything about Baltimore. I didn't know anything about the hum. I just knew that listening to Ear Hustle, right, that I had to do anything to change. So you're telling me that I had to do another blackout in 45 days? That doesn't bother me too much, because there's some kind of structure here. Go to classes. The food to me wasn't bad at all. It still isn't. It's decent. And y'all gave us little things to do on the weekends. So you start to look forward to things. And so the 45 days was fine. So I started to do like a expungement record with one of the counselors to come here, right? And she found out that I had a warrant. And so she says, you need to take care of this. It was for a violation of probation. I didn't know I was on probation. And that's a whole nother story. So I goes down there back to Dorchester County in Cambridge, Maryland. That's where the warrant is at. And eventually I go back to court, and I'm thinking it's going to be an in and out thing. I got a letter from the hum, and they can just tie me rest of my time to the hum. And that wasn't the case. I watched this man, like the judge, rear back in his seat, was total disgust, right, of me. Like I actually shot somebody, and he wanted to give me more time. So he just gave me my time that was suspended, which was 90 days. When I was here for those 6 months before I had to go to court, right, I had a reservation. The reservation was I still want to drink a beer. And when I stopped doing dope was because I went to rehab because my drug dealer ran out of dope. And so I had one more in me. I had to get an operation because I have sleep apnea. So when I got the operation, they had to take my tonsils out. So they give you 5 milligrams of oxycodone or codeine or whatever it was, right? So they give you 5. And I'm telling Kevin Healy that I'm not going to take them. And he doesn't press the issue. I get it filled anyway. And I take them. They don't do nothing. Nothing. They give me 15 of them, right? I guess 5 days supply, 15 of them. I take all 15. I don't feel anything. And I comes back to the hum. I wake up the next day, and I'm like, I ends up later that day having $2 in my pocket. I ends up at Lexington Market at this liquor store. I goes in there. I buy a tall boy. I drinks that. I start timing out that 1 ounce of alcohol equals an hour. So I got to count the time. So I'm out there for 6 hours, not coming back to the hum because I don't want to smell like alcohol. And I found the same people that I used to drink with on the Eastern Shore in Baltimore now. I'm talking to them on the side of the road. We're having a ball. And I realized that everything that y'all said in classes was true, that you just take yourself with you, right? I throw away 6 months times clean. Whatever time I got, throw that away. I come back to the hum, and Devin Lee is in my dorm, walks by me and says, you smell like alcohol, right? He says, you've been drinking. I goes 2 weeks again. Don't drink nothing. Pray to God in the chapel, blah, blah, blah. God, forgive me. And I'm not done. Now I goes back up to Lexington Market again, drinks another beer, hops on the sub train. It goes to Penn North now. Why am I at Penn North? Well, they sell dope at Penn North, right? That's what I seen all on the news. I am not from here. All I'm doing is running on what I see on the news. I go to Penn North, and this old 70-year-old woman is sitting on the side of a building selling pills for $6. I take the dope and I do the dope. Then I comes back to the home and lay in the bed. So in case if I fall out, I'm in the bed, right? And I'm starting to get to a place where I'm hating myself. I don't know what to do. I'm not getting high every day. I'm not even getting high after this pill, right? But I have this problem. I know where it's headed, and now I'm going to be in Baltimore getting high. Any given minute, y'all going to kick me out, and I'm going to be sitting on the side of the street, and I'm going to do what I know what to do best, and that's just continue to get high and try to make it. And I didn't want to do it. So I got this court date that's looming, right? Now, probably some kind of psychiatrist would probably think that my fear of this court date started the usage and it didn't have anything to do with the surgery or whatever like that. I'm going to say, no, it does have everything to do with just me. Just me. In this whole process, trying to be honest, I could not stay honest the whole 24 hours. I could only give you a part of me because I could not deal with, and it's not even the pain, it's the causation. Everything that I caused, I could not fix it, so I didn't know how to deal with it. It wasn't a pain of a molestation or a pain of like a loss of somebody. It was just everything that I caused, everything that God gave me, I just turned it over and say, here, I willingly give it away. And that's where I felt. And so even being afforded the opportunity of being here, I gave it away. Everything that y'all said here, this is what you need to do to have a successful life and learn how to live every day drug free and live and cope with life without the use of drugs. I eventually said, no, thank you. And it made me mad because I don't know why I said no, thank you. I still to this day got to deal with that. Went to court, boom, get to 90 days. While I'm sitting in jail, I remember sitting there and these other guys that are waiting to go up there in these orange jumpsuits. I got to go back with them, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm mad, but I'm not mad because I know why I'm here. If it was not for those 90 days, I don't know what would have happened. So I sit in this jail cell. And every day, this is what I tell God. God, I don't like this, but I know I need this. And it made life inside manageable. Because I know if I kept on staying here, I would have kept on creeping back out to Penn North. Something would have happened, either death, kicked, whatever. It wouldn't have been good, regardless of what it was. Yeah. And I could not, because I was going to tell him all this stuff eventually, because I could not keep on this frustration inside of waking up every day, going to meetings, looking at people that's saying, hey, what you doing today? What you working on? And inside, I'm not working on anything now. Like, you know how you would watch a show, right? A Law and Order or something like that show, and then somebody confesses, and I'd be like, what to confess for? You got to work for this confession. I wanted to give it up. I understand it. I understand why a criminal says, I killed him. Because you just cannot live with this anymore. Instead of me telling on myself, God did it for me. So go sit in jail and just keep on talking to me. So I would talk to him every day. And this is the only place that I actually know that I can actually say these things and not have a psychiatrist come in and want to evaluate me for schizophrenia, right? So I talk to him. Not in a sense where we have a dialogue like he's sitting right there, but I just express how I feel, don't get an answer, and have to somehow just keep on moving through the course of the day. I get released from jail, and I'm still not done. So I get a pill of dope, and I OD. So when people in here tell me about people's process, going back, coming back, going back, coming back. And they look down on them. And they understand. They just try to say, well, we gave him all the information. We loved him. We did all this. Why did he die? Why did he OD? doing something that you don't want to do to try to make sense of your life. Like, why can't this be a part of my life? Why do I have to be singled out? It's the same thing if a diabetic would just ask one day, like, why do I got to take this insulin? This don't make any sense. I'm just not going to take it. They would have some problems. And my diabetes is my recovery. This is my insulin, and I feel the pressure during the time of this is going to be your life. Go ahead and get one more. Go ahead and try to find a new independence where if you do this, it'll be okay and we'll just start over. So I fell out. Boom. Didn't even get to a good 2 scoops of sniffing this stuff, right? Falls out. And I gets on the train and I come here. So I sit downstairs and I look back and I said, hey, Demetrie, look, you OD'd again. You sat there for 90 days. You still haven't learned anything because you still want to get high when you don't want to get high. You listen to everything these people have to say. Can you just please give this a chance? And so I sat there and downstairs and I looked up and I seen everybody hey, how you doing? Oh, good to see you. Welcome back. Blah, 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 blah. And the pressure from myself succeeding seems so overwhelming because I just got high. I just OD'd. Nothing has changed. I tried surrender. I tried praying this away. I tried, God, won't you do this? I tried all the therapies. I tried everything. Nothing seems to work with me. Encourage me. As I was saying this, God told me that's a lie. Still didn't believe him. After all these people were telling me, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Great. Welcome back. Blah, blah, blah. Hugging me, loving on me, right? That was his way of just helping me. So I sat in the cafeteria. I ate with people. They asked you the same questions over again. Where you been or what happened or whatever like that. And you have to repeat the same questions to the different next person that hasn't seen you. And all that goes by. And you got to tell your story again and again and again. It was starting the process. I am not saying I needed to OD again. I'm not saying I needed to go to jail. I'm just saying that when I said earlier about me being on a bus and I have to wear the helmet because I don't grasp information when it comes down to recovery. So I came here and they gave me a job. So anyway, I goes over Chase Street and for some reason, Pete Griffin decides to put me in charge of a day shift. They had to go there morning and lunch, right? Said, okay, Demetrie, you want to go over there? And he said, I'm going to give you this crew of 4 people. They're going to work for you. Make a schedule for them. Take care of it. Come talk to me every day. So only thing I can go back to and relate to is my management skills of running a company. So I have them on this rotating shift where I make it so easy for them. I'm starting to see that people trust me, that the little bit of stability that I have now within myself, I want to keep it and grow. So my prayers start to change from God, can you stop this drug addiction to God, give me peace. God, renew my mind. Then I start praying for other people. Awesome. Somehow me praying for other people got me to a place where I got another day clean. And I stopped thinking about it. During this whole process, right, I used to have these thoughts constantly of things that were happening on the Eastern Shore. Did not feed into them. Now that I have those thoughts, I start calling on God and things would happen. Like a Vic would say hello to me and I start talking about Vic's tidy day and start laughing about it. And next thing I know, those thoughts start to flee. Next thing I know, another day comes and the same thing happens. And I start practicing the thing that I practiced the other day to get rid of those thoughts. And somehow I get there. I get there to a point where I'm starting to grow. And I'm starting to not be fearful of Demetrie because I'm starting to see things. It's weird because, as I said earlier, we are all fortunate to hear God. And the same thing, he would give me signs like this, the signs of somebody saying to me, good job. The sign saying, you know what, Demetrie? You okay today, ain't you? I was like, yeah. A hug. All these kind of things. The signs that would keep me knowing that I was on the right path. Those are signs to me. Like, I didn't need God to crack the sky open like I thought he would and had to come down here personally and tell me what I need to do right. He would get them by people that's helped me get along the way. So anyway, I applied to go to school. I got this job, right? Got a job in recovery, right? Which I did not want to do at all. I promise you. Because I think people in recovery are crazy. And so with these special needs, I found out that they're so related to me. And so I work at a hospital where I get to do these brief interventions with people that may not lead to anything with me, but I see this planet. So it's all about trust, right? And the whole time of being in jail, getting out, getting high again, falling out, all that kind of stuff, or going back running to Penn North, getting through all that to get here was just for me to actually depend on him. This is what happens. If I would decide to go back out, not even with drugs, just go back out where I got this now, myself, and knowing what I know now, it wouldn't be just a fall. It would be a demise. Because I was fortunate enough here, Vic, to get to a point where I'm sitting and talking to you and trying to convey of how I got here. That is just realization of what God can do. So if I decide to say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to get high no more, but I just don't need this anymore. This meaning a new way of life. Keep on growing. Keep on succeeding in life. Keep on reaching to a values and dependency of God. If I decide to say I'm God today by my actions, you won't have to worry about a story to be told. The story will be how a failure unfolded. Just by taking my will back, there's no way that I should be here. There's no way. And I'm not talking about just physically. I'm talking about in a mental state where I'm not sitting somewhere on the 5th floor of Johns Hopkins. If there's a 5th floor, I don't know where it's at, but somewhere down there. It's his grace. I did not earn any of this. Nothing. And whatever I have for my next chapter, the door that I walk through, I'm praising him now and don't even know what it is. Praise him in the sense of getting up every day and doing what I need to do today. That is the praise. People sometimes think the praise is I have to wait till I go to church and clap and sing a song and do a worship. Do your everyday life that's best. I don't know why I'm saying this. These are cliches, but I promise you, living your best life is the praise to God. Living your best life, helping somebody, that's part of the best life.
This episode was produced by me, Vic King, and William Kapfer, a recent Hum grad who's interning with the Spiritual Life team right now. I'm looking forward to collaborating on some more of these episodes with Will. The intro music was 15th Street by Blue Dot Sessions, and the outro music was Thank You by Walter Hawkins. This has been the first episode of the new season of our podcast. I would love to hear your thoughts. You can email me at vking@helpingup.org, or if you go to the podcast show page on Anchor, that's anchor.fm/helpingup, you can actually send a voice message. Maybe we'll include your message here on a future episode of the podcast. At any rate, thank you for listening. Stay healthy. We'll see you next time.